Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we're going to paint penguins in watercolor without pencil drawings. So first we'll discuss what color to use, and then I will show you how I paint penguins without pencil drawings. I'll do a demo of painting with pencil drawing and discuss the advantages of painting directly. These are the colors we will use, and if you're not doing pencil drawings, then all you need are a couple of round brushes, paper, and water. And I want to point out that I learned this technique from Hazel Soan, and I've greatly benefited from attending her workshop. So I'm sharing with you what I've learned. So let's get started. So we're going to use indigo and sepia to mix the black for the penguin. You can also replace indigo with Prussian blue and sepia with burnt umber or raw umber. As you can see, there's some difference between the black on these two penguins and these two penguins. So in order to make the penguin pop out and it has some body, you have to make sure that the mixture of the black is thick enough. If it's too watery, and then it will become too pale. Okay, like it will become a gray. So make sure the mixture is thick enough so that it is the right color for the penguin. And as for the beak and the feet, you can use any yellow or orange color. Transparent orange, I'm sure, is fine too. So now let me show you how thick the mixture of the black has to be. So I'm squeezing out indigo and sepia on my palette, and I'm making a very dark mixture, adjusting the ratio of indigo to sepia so that you have a neutral black. Also thoroughly soak your brush in the mixture so that you don't have to come back and dip in the color constantly. Now that the brush is fully loaded, we will start painting. Paint the beak preferably with one stroke and tilt the brush a little bit so that you can use the shape of the tip of the brush for the shape of the beak. Leave out some white paper for the eye, and the general principle is to use fewer strokes as possible. That's why for the body of the penguin, use a larger size round brush, and I'm using a size 12 black velvet. And try to use the entire brush to make different kind of brush strokes. For the back of the penguin, tilt your brush a little bit flat so that you can use almost entire brush to make one stroke. But if it doesn't work with one stroke, like what I did, you can go back and make up for it. And painting it in one stroke can create some interesting dry brush texture. Now I'm switching to a size 6 and pick up some yellow ochre to paint the white part of the body. White is not completely white. It can have a warm undertone or a cool undertone. So we will use two colors for the white part, and the other is French ultramarine. The texture of the mixture is very, very watery. Use this pale blue for the more shaded part. Let yellow ochre and French ultramarine mix on paper to make a very beautiful light gray. The black is not completely dry, so if the brush touches the black might bleed into the white area, but I think that actually creates some more natural shades. I'm using a clean damp brush to smoothen parts where French ultramarine meets yellow ochre on the body. Now I'm switching back to the brush I use for the black color and paint the dark part of the feet. Let the black color bleed a little bit so it looks natural. Now I'm picking up some Indian yellow for the yellow part of the feet. Now that the paint on its belly is almost completely dry, so I'm going to paint its right fin. If it bleeds a little bit, it's fine, no need to fix it. Now I'm picking some very pale indigo to paint the shadow. You can also use French ultramarine. I'm using the brush for the black color and I am going to paint the eye of the penguin. You can switch to a smaller brush if that's more comfortable for you. Okay, one penguin done. Let's move on to the second one. It is more difficult for right-handed person to paint a penguin whose beak is facing towards right. But this will be a good exercise to familiarize with your own brush and what you can do with it. It's very challenging and I'm trying to use as few strokes as possible to paint the head. I find drawing directly without a pencil drawing force you to observe the subject more closely and to figure out the relationship between different elements. So it pays to think before you put down a brush stroke. For the white part on the fin that's in shade, I am using a smaller brush and dipped in yellow ochre, very pale yellow ochre. And as the brush touches the black part we just painted, the black start to bleed into the yellow ochre, which is what I want right now because that helps to create this shadow. And now I'm still using yellow ochre to paint the white part of its body. And I'm only going to paint the left side of it. And now I'm picking up some French ultramarine and add into this layer of yellow ochre and also add to the shaded part on the fin. Use a clean damp brush to encourage the mixing of color on paper if you see any hard edges. Now I'm picking up the brush I used for the color black and paint its tail. And immediately I am using a smaller brush, picking up Indian yellow to paint its feet. I want to paint it while the lower part of its body is still a little bit wet so that the yellow can mix with the yellow ochre so that the transitions are natural. And I'm switching to my black brush to paint the dark toenails of the penguin as well as its eye. And I am fixing the shape of its beak a little bit. When you're painting directly, it's very tempting to fix what you just painted because you see certain brushstrokes or shapes as imperfect. But a lot of the times, those add personality and a character to your paintings. I am adding some shadows like I did with the first penguin. I'm not done yet. I will wait it to dry and now move on to the third penguin. This one's beak is facing left, so it's much easier and it has much more darker side of its body facing us. So it's a very good opportunity to practice painting the big shape in as few strokes as possible. As you can see, I'm pressing the side of my brush really down to cover the largest area I can cover with one brush strokes. It looks like the best I can do is two big brush stroke and a little bit here and there to make up for some white paper. And now I'm going to paint the thing and then trying to twist my brush and tilt it in order to paint with one brush stroke if I can. So I think the second penguin is dry, so I'm going to add a pale blue background in order for the white to pop up. And this very pale blue wash is French ultramarine. Since we're painting on dry paper, so make sure you have a large puddle of blue mixture on your palette, and so that you don't have to mix more paint and then whatever you painted is already dry, leaving undesired hard edges. This is just a practice, it's not a painting, so I am not going to put these three penguins in a uniform background. I'm just showing how individual penguins can be done. Very light indigo and painting the shadow for the third penguin. I think we can still see a little bit of this penguin's legs, so I'm using a smaller brush and adding a tiny bit shadow on its leg, also a little bit orange. I'm adding details. I decided to wash over a very pale layer of yellow ochre. Let's do another pose. For these two penguins, we can clearly see that in the middle of its beak, there's an orange part. So I'm going to leave it out when I'm doing the beak with the black mixture. As you can see, to paint this part which has a narrow and a wider end, I just press my brush harder when I want to paint the wider end, and then lift it up when I paint the narrower end, so that it is done in one brush stroke. And if the shape is not ideal, you can go back and add a little bit. And for this thing that's extending towards the left, it's more difficult to do it in one brushstroke. So as you can see here, I am struggle a little bit, but just trying to remind yourself that do as few strokes as possible. For the color on its beak, I'm going to make an orange mixture with Indian yellow and a little bit cadmium red. There is also this orange color on the back of its head and the top of its chest. And then I am going to pick up pure Indian yellow to make it gradually transition into a warm yellow. For its belly that's in shadow, I'm still going to use very pale yellow ochre and ultramarine blue, just like the previous three penguins. I will show you one more pose. These are so cute. And we're using the same colors and the same brushes. So I have shown you how to paint penguins without pencil drawings, and this is what I've learned from Hazel. And I guess some of you might wonder, do I have to paint penguins without pencil drawing? What are the benefits? Why can't I just do a very light pencil sketch so that I feel, comfortable? I think my answer to that question will be yes, of course, you can do a pencil drawing if you are mindful about how you are painting based on your based on your pencil drawing. If you tend to do a lot of small brush strokes to fill in a shape that you draw, just like this, then maybe try to paint without pencil drawing. And if in the beginning you just want to get the proportion right, so you just want to do a very simple drawing just to give yourself a guideline, then I think it doesn't hurt. This is actually how I started. When I first learned this technique, I still didn't feel very comfortable. And it doesn't feel good when you paint something that doesn't look good. So I only use pencil to do a very rough sketch, kind of to get the proportion right. And then I try to use Hazel's technique. When I was doing her workshop and I saw how she used her brush to make different brush strokes and how the penguins just look so much more lively, I just give it a go. And I think it's helped me to loosen up. And to be honest, some people would probably prefer the penguins that are painted with pencil drawings. They probably think, oh, this looks much better. Or maybe they think there are no differences. But that is not the point. The point is not the end result right now. The point is the process. The point is to practice and to be familiar with your tools, because your brush is basically an extension of your hand. So the way you use your brush is really going to make a big difference. And I can really see it by watching Hazel paint in person. So hopefully this very small exercise of painting penguin can help you to be brave and to experiment painting without pencil drawing. And another benefit of this practice is you can practice seeing things better, meaning you really have to force yourself to get the proportion right and in one go. In the beginning, maybe the penguins might look worse than the ones you might be able to do with pencil drawing. Practice makes perfect, and over time, your drawing will improve. And another benefit of painting without pencil drawing is, of course, for plein air painting. If you ever want to paint penguins in real life, they're moving. So you won't have time to do a pencil drawing and then do the color. So that's another benefit. But I understand painting live animals that are moving is probably a goal that is not shared by a lot of people, or that's something people think, oh, I will never be able to do it. Even for the sake of just to be familiar with your brushes and to practice different type of brush strokes and to help yourself loosen up, I think it is very beneficial to practice painting without drawing. I'm going to show you the progress I have made in 1 year by practicing this technique. I think I am more loosened up, which is what I'm always striving for. Thank you for watching my video. Please click like and subscribe.